Yesterday I posted a video about experimenting with chords on the keyboard. Chord you might come across looking at a sheet of music, and I talked about a few chords that I saw on a piece of music written in the C major. Then I played some chords that don't have. It seems to me uh, that don't have anything to do with the C major scale. What I mean by that they don't belong to the C major scale. They're not diatonic to the C major scale. So then I said that okay, it's normal to have other to have chords from other scales to come into a scale that you playing in, because the composer or the arranger may have different reasons why he or she would use those chords in the scale, those non-diatonic chords in the scale. But if you are a musician that you playing in the key of C major, and all of a sudden you see a D7 chord, okay? You see a D dominant seventh chord. And you probably wonder what this chord is doing here, because it is a D dominant seventh chord, and we are playing in the key of C major. In the C major, we don't have a D dominant seventh chord. We have a D minor chord triad, or a D minor seventh, and so on. You can add extensions, and you get D minor 11, D minor 9, and so on and so on. Well, it is not unusual to see non-diatonic chords, because we know as musicians we can use chord substitutions. Okay, we can use direct substitutions. We can use dominant 7 flat 5 substitutions. We can use tritone substitutions, and so on. I mean, we can substitute chords for chords. So that is not unusual. But there are more things. There are more things that you can do in order to figure out why a particular non-diatonic chord is being played. For example, if you take D dominant seventh, for example, in the key of played in the key of C major, it's a dominant seventh chord. Okay, so one thing that we know, or we should know, in a major chord, in a major scale, for example, you can have more than one dominant seventh chords besides the normal primary dominant seventh chord. For example, in the key of C major, we know we have one dominant seventh chord, which is the primary dominant seventh chord. That's G dominant seventh. Okay. Okay. The G dominant seventh chord in the key of C major, which will lead you to the root chord, which is C major. Okay. But believe it or not, every chord in the key of C major can become a dominant seventh chord. Okay. The difference is going to be, they're not going to be primary they're not going to be primary dominant seventh chord, but instead they're going to be secondary dominant seventh chord in the key of C major. We already know the primary dominant seventh chord. The primary dominant seventh chord in the key of C major is G7, G dominant 7. Now, if you have a D dominant seventh chord in the key of C major, or you have an F dominant seventh chord, or an A dominant seventh chord, those chords in the key of C major, they are secondary dominant seventh chords. So D dominant seventh chord in the key played in the key of C major is a secondary dominant seventh chord. Okay, so this dominant seventh chord must resolve to another chord, other than C major chord, because the resolution to the C major chord is from the primary dominant seventh chord, which is dominant seventh chord. Now, a secondary by rule, a secondary dominant seventh chord in a major key must resolve on a diatonic chord within the scale. The way you find the diatonic chord that the secondary dominant seventh chord is going to resolve on is by counting a perfect fifth below the root of the secondary dominant seventh chord. A perfect fifth is an interval of fifth when you count. That means from the root of the dominant of the secondary dominant 7 chord, which is D, you're going to count a perfect fifth, an interval of fifth below the root, in order to find the chord of the diatonic chord of resolution. So we start with D. It's got to be perfect fifth, okay? So when we count down a perfect fifth, we're gonna see, okay, you got D, and then you got C, then you got B, and you got A, and then you have G. So we know that below the note D, a perfect fifth is G. So normally the secondary dominant 7 chord, okay, is the D, the secondary dominant 7 chord, which is D dominant 7 chord, should resolve on a type of G chord, okay. You can play G major 7th, you know, instead of G7 chord in the key of C. That would be a direct substitution. Okay, you can substitute a dominant 7th chord for a major 7th chord of the same type, stuff like that. So when I look at the progression where they use that D dominant 7 chord, the next chord they play is this chord, which is A flat dominant, no, A flat diminished 7. They play the dominant 7 chord, D dominant 7, which is the secondary dominant 7 chord in the key of C major. And the next they played it. Well, it lasts 2 bars, and then they play A flat diminished 7, and then the next one after A flat diminished 7th, they play G minor 7. They play G minor 7, and then from G minor 7 they play C dominant 7, and then there is C dominant 7 with they resolve C dominant 7 on F major 7. You know, we can see here, we can see that what they did here, instead of, I'm going to explain how they get to play that A flat diminished 7. But first, let me say, you see how they play from D dominant 7, and then they play that A flat diminished 7, and then they play G minor 7. Okay. Okay. Now, one thing that we need to watch for when we play a minor 7th chord is to look at the chord of resolution. What is the next chord that is going to play it? What is the next chord that is played after the minor 7th chord? The minor 7th chord. In this case, I see I see C dominant 7, which is this one. I say, okay, immediately I see that C dominant seventh, you know, is a is a dominant seventh, a diatonic dominant seventh in the key of F major. So what they did in that progression, they play the G minor seven, and then they play C dominant seven, and then they play the F major seven, which is what they did here. They play 2, 5, 1 in the key of F major. So so you can do when you play. Let's say you're playing in the key of C major, and you play your chord. Okay, you play your C chord. Okay, and then you want to play D. Let's say you want to play the next chord, which is D minor 7. Okay, okay. No, sorry, I played the wrong chord here. Okay, you play your. Okay, I said that you play your C major chord, and then you want to move to. Well, let me make it more. Let me make it a little more. Let me make it simple. You know, you want to play from C. Let me play from the root position. This is C. Or here. Or here. Now you want to move to you want to play F. You could go straight to the F. Okay? You can do that. That's easy. Okay? I play F in the root position. No, I play the C. I'm playing the C in the root position, and the F in the second. I think that the second inversion. Okay. Okay. Now you don't have to go straight from C. You don't have to go straight to the F. You can make your progression more interesting by playing 2, 5 or in the key of F, and then you resolve on the F, as even though you're still playing in the key of C major. Okay, you can play your C chord, but you want to go to F, then you want to play 2, 5, 1 cadence of in the key of F now. Not in the you're not playing in the key of F, but that movement right here to go from C to F, you can play the cadence 2, 5, 1 of F. So what is 2 in the key of F is G. So you could be G minor 7th. What is 5 in the key of F is C. So you're gonna be C dominant 7, and then you resolve on your F instead of going from C straight to F. Okay, something like this. Okay. Then you can go ahead and play. You play G minor 7, and then you play C dominant 7, and you play F major 7. You know, it's as opposed to just playing C and then go straight to F. You just make it more interesting by playing by playing the cadence 2-5-1 of F. Okay, so we got to, we got to try to make the music more interesting by, you know, playing a chords in between the primary chords, you know. So okay, so that was C. If you want to just play the C major 7, and then you play C, G minor, and the C7, and then you can even, okay, you can create a little something if you want. Okay, you can create something like, let's say 2-5-1 in F. Okay. Let's see. Okay, you can play G minor 7. That's 1. Okay. There's the F 2-5-1. Now, okay, now you want to return to C from this progression. You don't have to go to C, straight to C or C major 7. Maybe you just can go. Maybe you can play. Let's see. Let's try that. Let's go from F. From F, go to C by playing the cadences in between G minor 7. Okay, say D minor 7, G7. See, so it's you can create. Music is we need in music we need to learn how to create. You know, make it interesting. You know, get involved. You know, instead of going from F or F. No, I play, I make it more interesting, by playing the cadences, you know. I'm making some little mistakes, little mistakes here. So I don't really pay attention to those little mistakes because we are just practicing. We're making some kind of we're making I'm trying to make a point. So let's see here. We do that. Remember F 2-5-1 in F. We're going with G minor. We're going to play F minor 7, C7, okay, and then we keep going by playing D minor 7, G7. So let me explain that A flat diminished that I saw in the music. So D dominant 7th, normally supposed to resolve on a G type chord, preferably G major 7. It would be something like this. But it can also be a G. It could also be a G dominant 7 if you playing blues, for example. So, but if you want to like push it, if you want to push it, you can make it a minor 7. Okay. Okay. So this is what this is why I think they use that A flat. They use that A flat diminished 7 right before resolving uh, before playing G minor 7, because I think that if they play the A flat, they play the A flat, which is actually G sharp, A flat, diminished 7th is also G sharp diminished 7. So I think what they did is that they just played the D dominant 7, and then they play the A flat, which is G sharp dominant, G sharp diminished 7, because that because D dominant 7 normally is supposed to resolve on a G type chord, and you can substitute depending on the context of the music. So what they did, since A flat diminished 7th is also G sharp, so what they did, they just did a chromatic. Uh, I think they use it as a passing chord. Okay, passing chord, because G sharp going to G. That's what they did. Okay, they use the A flat diminished 7th, which is a G sharp diminished 7, and they play, and then they play the G dominant. They play the G minor 7. Okay, that's what I see here is a chromatic shift. Is a is a is a passing chord, chromatic passing chord to the G minor, to the G minor 7. Okay, so it, all the other chords, all the other chords that I saw, they either direct substitutions, or they just diatonic to the C major scale. So that's it. I hope from time to time, I will post videos like this. So to so to so we can have some fun.